and decided it was grown up. Besides, look where it had led, and look what it started. The sunrise woke us, but we had to scrap breakfast because a thief had climbed into the fig tree during the night and stolen our wheel of cheese. Or had Sandy? But no, he couldn't have eaten as much as a whole cheese, and anyway, it didn't matter. We still had our water, and we'd be fine, even if the man in the cafe on the jetty didn't think so. He'd laughed at us yesterday when we told him about our plan to walk to Rupert Brooke's grave. In those shoes, he said, or words to that effect, rolling his eyes at our flip-flops. Did we realize what the ground was like on that part of the island? Did we even know where to look? Not really. All we had to go on were the notes I'd taken from Christopher Hassel's Biography. After Brooke had died of septicemia on board the troop transport, the Grantully Castle, as it sailed through the Aegean on the 23rd of April 1915, his soldier friends rowed the body to Skyros because that was the island nearest to the ship, landed in Trebuchis Bay, carried it a few hundred yards up a dry stream bed, and buried it in an olive grove. A good place for a poet. Then they said a prayer and walked back down the sandy path to their rowing boat. A month later, most of them were killed at Gallipoli. My mother was vanishing, all the pictures in my head fading, day by day, week by week, then suddenly whoosh, gone. Like when my father laid a fire in the sitting room and held up a sheet of newspaper to make it draw, and the flames leaped, and the paper stiffened, then rusted, then caught, then turned into a shining feather and floated up the chimney. Which was when my father climbed to his feet and brushed yesterday's ash off his knees. The man in the cafe had known what he was talking about. There was no path to Brooke's grave, not even a track, just low hills of ancient lava wreckage and thyme bushes made of knives. We hopped and swerved and stumbled for half a mile, then returned to camp with our ankles lacerated, rummaged in our backpacks for the socks and long trousers we'd worn when leaving England, tied strips of plastic bag round our feet to stop our flip-flops flip-flopping, and set off again. 5 hours later, we were still tramping, the sun now directly overhead, and our brains scorched. There was no shade anywhere, not a single tree, and no kindness in the ground. I thought of Lawrence of Arabia, Peter O'Toole with his ice-blue eyes that never showed the heat, and remembered how he had ridden his camel back into the desert to rescue the boy he loved. Mirages and delirium. Then I thought about James Gardner, the son of a teacher at school. James had died of heat stroke last year when he was travelling in Turkey before going to university. A red-faced boy, black hair, smiley, embarrassed, even though his dad was popular. I didn't know the whole story, just how he fainted at the side of the road because nobody stopped while he was waiting to hitch a lift. Before James slipped away, he must have seen what I was seeing, the sun swinging across the sky like a light bulb in a cellar, and the sea pouring off the edge of the world. I sat down in the shade of a boulder, and my life backed away from me. These were my hands lying sunburned in my lap, but they might have belonged to anyone. And these were my friends, peering down at me, but seeming like ghosts. I dragged them into real time. Michael with his bustling, squarish body, his false front tooth, which was darker than the others, his money belt, and his complicated camera settings. And Sandy, with his beefiness and curly rock star hair. Sandy, who felt like a brother, only more so. Sandy, who was holding a flask to my mouth and telling me that he'd heard a shepherd rounding up sheep on the hills nearby and was going to ask him about the grave. The shepherd was bound to know where it was. My mother lay on a hospital bed, with her hands folded across her stomach, and her head propped on a high bank of pillows. Her nose and mouth were hidden by the oxygen mask, a clamp the colour of dirty snow, but the rest of her face was clear. Cheeks sunken, eyes shut, eyelids faintly flickering. The bruise at her temple had faded now, softening from deep raspberry red to mushy brown and violet, and the hair on her scalp, growing back after the operation, was darker than it used to be when she lived in the world. Did those tremors in her eyelids mean she was dreaming? Or was she awake in a way the rest of us didn't understand, and still thinking?